how does blockchain or NFT technology or the related technologies specifically advance or connect with XR beyond the other ways in which it might be used? I know we've talked about using things like blockchain as a way to track, to identify yourself, to have a persistent identity across different sites or different spaces. But we also know that there is no one blockchain. There's many blockchains. They're not compatible. So that interoperability is non-trivial. But what does blockchain bring to XR? Is it necessary for the metaverse? And if so, how? Jocelyn, do you want to comment on that?
Well, as far as NFT blockchain, my particular interest is from an artistic point of view and creating digital art. When I first started creating digital graphical art, I was doing sort of bizarre conceptual things like recording my physiology and in different states and turning it into graphical visual projections. And the only way to make that, make single copies of that, was to print it out and make prints of that. And then I actually would make a gallery exhibition of it. And that was the only way to sell copies. So, many years ago, it would have been great to have NFTs because that would have solved that problem. And there are beautiful ways to make art in AR and VR with the tilt brush and other ways of connecting now. I see artist friends and other ways of connecting digital art to physical, not just physical art, but environmental issues and all kinds of things that people are doing. So I think it's wonderful to be able to use this medium and find a way for artists to make a living off of it. It's been many years that people have been creating beautiful works and not being able to capitalize on it. So I think that's, for me, the most important part right now.
Digital asset ownership.
Digital asset ownership.
No matter what the technology underneath is a really important piece of the metaverse. Mark, what's your perspective on this?
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think it's been important for the artist community. I think relative to our dabbling with NFTs, that's what we've been able to do, is bring otherwise one-off experiences or physical world pieces into a digital state that can be proliferated and or create inherent value. So it's extremely important for the creator economy, and that runs across all verticals. And anything that you think that means, I would wager it's included. I think it's, for obvious reasons, the use case for cryptocurrency. It's become, the NFT economy has basically bolstered where there was previously a perception of no utility, to allow utility across chains and for all manner of different projects. And that's just getting started and growing. Yeah, it's swelling like a bubble, but inside of that bubble is something extremely tangible with a proper framework and a monolithic one at that. I think, going forward, the platitudes that exist relative to people's distaste with what NFTs may or may not represent are also going to sort of dissipate, because, it's a movement. It's undeniable. When I went to South by Southwest, it was basically dominated by NFTs and the nouveau riche companies spending their advertising dollars, which I don't necessarily disagree with. That's how you're raise the flag about what you're doing, and it's great as a creator if we can partner up with somebody who wants to do something meaningful as a result. And so I also appreciate that it's attracting dollars, corporate attention to the XR space. That's also, wholeheartedly why I perceive NFTs to be part of the XR umbrella of which you spoke, because it's good for everybody on this call and everybody watching and everybody in the organization. It's a little bit of a defibrillation post pandemic relative to where VC capital can go and how the overlap of the future frameworks is going to afford organic crossover, capital crossover, both from content creation standpoint and a tokenization standpoint.
And yeah, it's clear there's a lot of interest and excitement in the space. There's a lot of investment. There's also a lot of skepticism. There's been a lot of concern about environmental impact. There's been a lot of concern about the lack of clear regulations and scams happening in the space. Tyler, given what you were discussing, but what we're all discussing here right now, and those aspects, do you feel like it's enterprise ready to integrate blockchain technologies into these XR experiences? And if so, what are the concerns or things that are need to be worked on in the very near term?
I mean, I think it all depends on who you are and kind of the position from which you're asking the question. If you're asking the question from the position of you're looking at a 30-year investment strategy and you're trying to figure out whether or not this is going to line up to what you may traditionally be looking at, then maybe, yeah, it doesn't necessarily line up in the right way. But to answer your question, enterprise is already on blockchain in significant capacity. The U.S. government is already on blockchain. So it's not like is it going to happen kind of thing. It's already happening. It's just smaller than what most people are aware of. But it's happening at this rapid pace that makes people uncomfortable. It produces scenarios where you're seeing with like NFTs right now, where it's like, again, NFT is a function of blockchain. It's a service. It's a capability. But it was early adopted by Larva Labs with CryptoPunks, and they created these two-dimensional profile pictures that are these really unique digital assets that then could mutate based on an algorithm. And then by mutating, they just create more value for the original asset. And so it's basically an economic principle that's applied to a technological standard. And what is valuable about it is that you can see that if two-dimensional images as profile pictures are valuable to trade on, and not just trade on, but they're used. I mean, what Bored Ape Yacht Club did to CryptoPunks is, I mean, really they stole their lunch within a year's time frame. I mean, CryptoPunks come out, and then Bored Apes come out a year later, and Bored Apes come out and Yuga makes it so that the token holder actually owns 100% of the copyright, which is unprecedented. I mean, for thousands of years, we've been running the same system that if you're the artist, if you buy an Andy Warhol, you don't own the copyright. You may own that painting, but you don't own the copyright of that image. But this is what Bored Apes changed. They actually allow you as the token holder to own 100% of the intellectual property rights. And what that does is then makes the token holder that much more capable to transact with that digital asset. And I think what's important for people to recognize is, again, NFTs and digital profile picture collections are separate things that work well with one another. The profile picture collection works on top of the NFT structure, but NFT structure can be applied to, I mean, in an infinite amount of things that we can think of at this point. And that's why I think it's so powerful for metaverse style concepts, because it's a container size that is much larger than the container size that we used to use to serialize things. The fact that we can now add a digital serialization to an intangible asset, the intangible asset class, I mean, we're talking about decatrillions, the intangible asset class, and to be able to serialize them, to add a tag to a place in time that you can then own and then trade on and then generate value off of. If you own the intellectual property of something you've created in 3D and you've minted an NFT with that 3D asset, you can then not only sell that through asset stores like we would think, like, okay, you can send this through all your asset stores, but then you can take that asset and you can sell it, you can license it out to hundreds, thousands of brands. People right now are actually licensing out their Bored Apes to coffee brands and to other brands to actually leverage this asset because it has value in pop culture, to use it as a communication medium. So what blockchain does, even though it may provide some sort of immediate risk or short-term risk as a investment strategy, as to try to use it as a, you know, global securities process or something like that, maybe yes. But when we're considering it inside metaverse environments for the sake of, even, I was just out at GDC. I know, Mark, you said you're at South by. I mean, at GDC, same thing. I mean, only a month and a half later, insanity, like overtaken by the concept of NFTs. But it works well in that environment because that environment allows for significant gamification. And as much variety as you can add to blockchain, it can contain it.